As we start to approach the end of the summer, I wanted to do another tier list video on this channel. Join me today as I go through the hardest Resident Evil 4 Remake bosses and enemies tier list. I will be ranking this based off of which enemies are the most difficult to take down. So starting off here, we have the Knights, which I went ahead and put in the C rank. I think the C rank is pretty fitting for the Knights because they were never really that difficult to go past, and actually if you're talking about Ashley's section, then the Knights are super easy to actually go past. The only section that I can think about the Knights being difficult is when you have to take down the Golden Knight to get a gem of some kind. They're actually really easy to defeat, and if you have their heads broken off, then using a flash grenade will eliminate them very easily. Next up, we have none other than Chief Mendez, which I'm gonna have to put in the B rank for Big Cheese. He serves as the stalker enemy for Resident Evil 4, and he also serves as actually I think one of the first boss battles in Resident Evil 4 Remake, apart from Del Lago. I think the B rank is a pretty fitting position for the Big Cheese on this tier list, because unlike the other boss fights in this game, you can actually go through this one relatively quick and easy. Next up now we'll be talking about the newly added enemies, which are the Brutes. I went ahead and put these enemies on the B list along with Chief Mendez, because I do think that the Brutes are actually pretty tough to take down. The Brutes with the hammers can actually do a lot of damage to you. You just have to be able to watch out for their attacks and know when to dodge them. On the other hand, the Brutes that come equipped with the turrets are a pretty good opt-out for the original enemies of Resident Evil 4, which were the JJs. Now making its way into the B rank as well, we have the Bella Sisters. The Bella Sisters I think are a little bit more difficult to take down than the Brutes, because usually when you're dealing with one, you're dealing with two when it comes to the Bella Sisters. That extra enemy that also comes equipped with a chainsaw can be so much extra added pressure when usually you're dealing with one chainsaw person. Now with the Bella Sisters, you have to deal with two, so you really have to keep your eyes peeled at all times. The Bella Sisters are easily high up there on the B rank. But now, moving on, we have the Dogs, which I'm going to go ahead and put in the C rank. I don't know if you call them the Dogs or the Wolves, but whatever it is, it's best to just hit them with the W870 when they're mid-jump. Next up, we have our first D rank enemy, which is the Castle Guards. Nothing much against these enemies, they're pretty generic. I mean, some of them come with a shield, so that kind of makes it more difficult to actually defeat them. But like I said, they're pretty generic, and it only takes a couple of shotgun shots or handgun bullets with a good kick to the face to really take them down for good. Now next up here we have Del Lago, which is officially the first boss fight of the game. I went ahead and put the Del Lago right at the very top of the C rank, because I think he is kind of a difficult boss fight, but at the same time you don't have to actually exert any ammo, you just have to be able to have some good aim with that harpoon. But don't get me wrong, if you miss those harpoons when it counts, then you can easily end up swallowed up whole by the Del Lago. But regardless, it is a really nice boss fight to get you warmed up for the rest of RE4. And now moving on, we are going to be talking about Dr. Salvador, which is going to be making his way into the B rank. Dr. Salvador is the first unique enemy that you see in the game apart from the villagers. It's best if you do grab that shotgun after you run into the Dr. Salvador for the first time, because if you try and take this enemy on with just the handgun, you're going to be in for quite a challenge to say the least. And with how reoccurring this guy is, you're bound to have to actually fight him at least once in the game. But next up we have another B rank enemy, which is gonna be the El Gigante. Just like the Dr. Salvador, you are not going to be getting a break from El Gigante because you're going to be running into not only one, but two and I mean 2, at the same time. There is a fair share of El Gigantes that are put throughout the game of RE4, but the hardest of them all has to be the part where you have to fight 2 at the same time. Therefore, these enemies are a B rank, but let's move on to our next enemies, which are just the normal villagers. So, therefore, they're going to be going right in the D rank. Like I said with the castle guards, there isn't anything I have against these enemies. It's not like they're trash or anything, but they're just really generic, and all it takes is a couple of handgun shots really to take them down. But next up, we're getting into the big boys here, as this is going to be our first A rank enemy, and that is the Garrador. Going back all the way to the original RE4, even when I was a kid, I used to always think of these enemies as the Wolverine guys. The best way to take these guys out is to use these bells that are scattered across the area when running into these dudes, because their senses are actually just based off of sound. If they do get a hold of you though, they are gonna mess you up. But next up here we have none other than Jack Krauser, who is going to be making his way right up there in the S rank tier. Jack Krauser actually makes a lot of appearances throughout RE4, and some of those appearances actually end up with you having to fight Krauser as well. I would say it's safe to say that Krauser is easily one of the most difficult bosses to take down in RE4 because of how relentless he is and how many times he keeps coming back stronger. Also, the connection Krauser had with Leon was great storytelling on the part of the developers. But next up now, going into the C rank, we have the Navistadors. I really like the camouflage-like abilities that they possessed in the remake, but other than that, they're really easy to take down, and all it takes is just a couple of handgun shots. Next up though, we have the ultimate ruler of RE4, the final boss, Osmond Saddler. Osmond Saddler is without a doubt going to be going at the very top of the S rank for this tier list. I am aware that you don't actually have to fight Osmond Saddler throughout the game as much, and not like Krauser or the other enemies, but his character development was actually really good, and I really like the storytelling that they did with him throughout RE4 Remake. Also, the final boss fight with Saddler is quite difficult, and the way that they added the Navistadors in the fight was an extra touch to make it a lot more difficult. Next up with these enemies, I wasn't too sure who they were based off of the picture there on the tier list, but I'm pretty sure this is referring to the island enemies, or at least the people that you run into when you reach the island. But regardless, I'm pretty sure that's what the guy was referring to who made this tier list, so I went ahead and put it at the D rank, but I went ahead and put them at the top of the D rank because they are a bit more advanced and have more weapons and stuff than the actual castle guards and the villagers. Next up though, we've got another completely goated character in RE4, and that is Ramon Salazar. I went ahead and put him at the top of the S rank right below Saddler because of course when it comes to talking about difficulty, the Salazar boss fight is super tough to do, and it'll take you a very long time to be able to get through it on your first time, guaranteed. Not trying to make this video about the original RE4 or nothing, but I think that the Salazar boss fight and Salazar in general was done a lot better in the original, and I didn't really care for this one in the remake. But moving on to something that I think the remake did better than the original RE4, and that is the Regenerators. The Regenerators I'm gonna have to be putting right there in the A rank. The Regenerators are just as scary in the remake than they are in the original, and I think it's even safe to say that the remake did the Regenerators a lot better, and they are a lot more scarier. Not only that, but they are a lot more tough to take down in the remake, I think, and that just adds to the fear level of these Regenerators. Now moving on with these set of enemies, which I was also confused on what the tier list guy was actually going for when adding this picture. But I think this is also like the island enemies. It's the people that actually have weapons with them. So I went ahead and put them at the bottom of the C rank because I know the guy that actually has the rocket launcher with him is really tough and you don't want to be hit by him. So now moving on with the last boss of Resident Evil 4, it is the Verdugo. I went ahead and put the Verdugo right at the top of the A rank because just as scary and frightening as this thing is, it is also double the fear because of just how tough this guy is to actually take down. I went ahead and bought the rocket launcher when I was playing this game for the first time, but I know without the rocket launcher, this can be like a 20 or 30 minute fight easily. The only way that you can actually take this guy down effectively is to freeze him with one of those nitrogen tanks and then just go at him with one of your strongest weapons in your inventory. But that does it for all the enemies and bosses of Resident Evil 4 Remake. I had an absolute blast making this video, and before we sign off here, I want to go through and actually showcase all of my entries on this tier list so you guys can get a good understanding of what I put where and see if you guys agree or disagree with my list. So of course at the top in the S rank I have Sadler, Salazar, and Krauser. Below them in the A rank I have the Verdugo, the Garradors, and the Regenerators. Then in the B rank I have the Big Cheese, the Bella Sisters, the Brutes, El Gigante, and Dr. Salvador himself. The C rank I have Del Lago, the Knights, the Navistadors, the Wolves, and the Island/Lab enemies. Lastly, at the D rank I have the Island enemies, the Castle Guards, and the Villagers. So, like I said, sound off in the comments and let your voices be heard, and let me know if there is anything in this list that you think I should have changed or should have had instead. The only enemy or boss that I think was missed here in this tier list would have been the U3, which was added in the Separate Ways DLC. But thank you all so much for watching, and make sure you guys hit a like on this video if you enjoyed it. You guys already know the deal. I post a new RE video every single day, so stick around for a new video tomorrow. Peace.